What if I told you that a single painting could hold secrets meant not just for its own time, but for generations yet to come? Imagine standing before the Mona Lisa, gazing at that enigmatic smile, and realizing that you are not only looking at one of the most celebrated works of art in history, but also at a carefully coded message from Leonardo da Vinci himself. 500 years ago, this Renaissance genius created a portrait unlike any other, and to this day, it refuses to give up all of its mysteries. Has this ever happened to you, where you look at something familiar, yet feel there's something deeper hiding just beneath the surface? That is the timeless allure of the Mona Lisa. But before we begin, please hit the like button and let me know where in the world you're watching from today. It's always fascinating seeing who's joining us from around the world. Now think about this. Why would Leonardo da Vinci, a man who painted masterpieces like The Last Supper and The Lady with the Ermine, devote so many years of his life to one relatively small portrait, no larger than a school notebook? What could he have seen in this figure, in those subtle brushstrokes and elusive expressions that demanded so much of his time, attention, and genius? Stay with me until the end, because what you're about to discover might surprise you. The Mona Lisa is more than paint on wood. It is a labyrinth of symbolism, speculation, and secrets. Her smile, for instance, has been described as both inviting and unsettling, as though she knows something we do not. Some say it's the smile of a mother, others believe it's the mask of a hidden lover, and still others claim it conceals codes only Leonardo could have planted there. Beyond her lips, even her eyes seem to whisper a story. Advanced studies have revealed letters and numbers hidden within them, as though the very windows of her soul were designed to carry a secret message across the centuries. What message could Leonardo have intended us to see only when the world was ready? Consider also the background. At first glance, it appears to be just another Renaissance landscape, yet historians now suspect it represents a very specific location in Italy, and even a very specific event, a devastating flood. Could it be that Leonardo was weaving together history, geography, and mystery into this single frame, transforming a portrait into a coded document? Has it ever crossed your mind that art might be a map, guiding us toward hidden truths about humanity, faith, or even the universe itself? And then, there is the question of identity. Who was the woman behind the smile? Tradition points to Lisa Gherardini, the wife of a wealthy Florentine merchant, but alternative theories suggest otherwise. Could it have been Leonardo's mother, Caterina, immortalized as the ultimate muse? Or was it Salai, his enigmatic apprentice and companion, hidden beneath layers of paint and symbolism? The speculation doesn't end there because even the very title Mona Lisa may itself be a riddle, a linguistic puzzle concealing an intimate declaration. What makes this all the more fascinating is that Leonardo da Vinci was not only an artist but also an inventor, a scientist, and, some argue, a keeper of forbidden knowledge. He lived in a time when ideas that strayed too far from the teachings of the Church could be dangerous, even deadly. So he disguised what he knew, embedding it in sketches, in mirror writings, and perhaps most enduringly in his paintings. Could the Mona Lisa be the grand culmination of that practice, a visual manuscript that hides the very truths Leonardo believed too important to be lost? Stay with me, because as we continue, we'll peel back more of these layers, exploring what makes the Mona Lisa not just a portrait, but a message encoded in beauty. And trust me, what lies beneath the surface might change the way you see this masterpiece forever. If you're fascinated by uncovering hidden truths and exploring stories that go beyond the surface, make sure to subscribe to the channel. This way, you won't miss the next journey into the mysteries that continue to shape our world. Think about this for a moment. Why would a man like Leonardo da Vinci, restless in his curiosity and constantly moving from invention to invention, spend over 4 years obsessing over a single portrait? Most artists of his time would finish a commission and move on, yet Leonardo kept the Mona Lisa close, carrying it with him until the very end of his life. Some scholars even argue that the painting is not truly finished, as if he deliberately left parts unresolved, an open door for future generations to question, to search, to wonder. This wasn't just art, it was intention. Leonardo was crafting not only a portrait, but a legacy of unanswered questions designed to live on long after his death. When we consider his genius, we have to remember he was not confined to one discipline. Leonardo was an engineer who sketched flying machines centuries before airplanes existed, a scientist who dissected the human body in search of its secrets, a philosopher who pondered the forces of nature and the mysteries of the universe. To him, the Mona Lisa might not have been just a representation of a woman, but part of a larger tapestry, a coded piece of a puzzle that stretches across his works. Could it be that The Last Supper, The Vitruvian Man, and the Mona Lisa are interconnected chapters of a single book he never openly wrote? What makes this even more compelling is the context of his time. Knowledge was power, and the wrong kind of knowledge could cost you everything. The church held strict control over ideas, dictating what was acceptable and condemning what was not. In such an environment, if Leonardo had insights that challenged traditional teachings about the nature of humanity, divinity, or even the structure of the cosmos, he could not simply write them down and publish them. He had to protect his revelations, disguising them behind layers of symbolism, geometry, and codes only the most attentive minds could perceive. This is where the Mona Lisa begins to look less like a portrait and more like a mirror of Leonardo's own inner world. The subtle smile, the ambiguous expression, the mysterious background, they invite us not just to admire, but to interpret, to take part in a journey of discovery. And isn't that the essence of transformation? To look beyond the surface, to question appearances, and to make decisions based on what lies hidden behind the obvious? Leonardo knew the power of perception, and he played with it like few others ever could. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic, because if the Mona Lisa is indeed a vessel of hidden truth, then we must ask, what kind of knowledge was Leonardo really trying to protect, and why did he feel it had such an impact on the future? This is where the real revelations begin to emerge, connecting art, science, and something even more profound. And before we move forward, I'd love to know what you think so far. Write in the comments. This makes sense to me. Do you see why Leonardo might have guarded his secrets this way? Sharing your thoughts not only helps keep this dialogue alive, but also shows how each of us connects differently to the mysteries he left behind. Leonardo's story becomes even more intriguing when we look closely at his beginnings. He was not born into privilege, the way many of his contemporaries were. Instead, he carried the mark of being an illegitimate child, the son of a wealthy notary, Piero, and a young peasant woman named Caterina. In a world where lineage dictated so much of one's future, this origin was more than just a detail of his biography. It shaped his mindset, his perspective, and perhaps even the way he approached knowledge itself. To grow up on the margins meant constantly observing, questioning, and finding new paths where society placed barriers. That sense of being outside the expected order might explain why Leonardo was always searching for the hidden truth behind appearances. For the first years of his life, he stayed with his mother, and then, unexpectedly, his father brought him into his home in Florence. This shift exposed him to a new world of opportunity and ideas, but it also split his childhood between two very different influences. On one side, there was the practical, earthbound experience of a mother whose life was rooted in simplicity. On the other, the refined culture of his father, tied to the intellectual life of Florence. It is not difficult to imagine how these contrasts sharpened Leonardo's sensitivity, feeding a mind that was always moving between worlds, between science and art, faith and doubt, reason and mystery. Yet, what fascinates historians most is how little we truly know about Caterina. Her presence fades in the historical record, leaving behind whispers and theories. Some claim she was more than just a humble peasant. There are suggestions that she was connected to esoteric traditions, perhaps even influenced by the Cathars, a group whose beliefs diverged sharply from the Church's doctrine. If there is any truth in this, then Leonardo may have inherited not only his curiosity, but also access to ideas that carried a different kind of wisdom, one that was forbidden or dangerous in his time. Could it be that the seeds of his fascination with hidden codes, symbols, and knowledge came from her? When we look at Leonardo's later works, including the Mona Lisa, the possibility becomes even more compelling. Her enigmatic smile, the mysterious background, the suggestion of layers beneath layers, it all feels like the continuation of a legacy of secrets passed down, perhaps unconsciously, from mother to son. It turns the painting into more than art. It becomes part of a journey, a bridge between Leonardo's personal story and the universal search for meaning. Now I want to go even deeper into this topic because the connection between his life and his art suggests that behind the scenes of every brushstroke, there might be revelations about his identity, his decisions, and the impact he hoped to have on the world. Before we continue unraveling this, I'd love for you to share your perspective. Write in the comments, "I'm also on this path," because when you put it into words, it's not just a reaction. It's an acknowledgement that these mysteries touch something in you too, something that connects us across time, just as Leonardo intended. Leonardo's connection to secret societies adds yet another layer of fascination to his story. Reports suggest that he was linked to the Priory of Sion, a brotherhood rumored to guard ancient and forbidden wisdom, knowledge tied not only to history, but to the spiritual foundation of humanity itself. Whether myth or truth, this association deepens the sense that Leonardo was not merely an artist or an inventor, but a guardian of hidden truths, someone entrusted with insights that needed to be concealed in plain sight. Imagine carrying the weight of that responsibility, knowing that what you reveal openly could destroy you, yet feeling compelled to preserve it somehow. That tension between revelation and protection may be the very heartbeat of his art. It is against this backdrop that the Mona Lisa takes on an entirely different dimension. In 1503, Leonardo began what seemed like a simple commission, a portrait of a wealthy merchant's wife. But what started as one of many projects soon became his obsession. For 16 years, he returned to it, adjusted it, and carried it with him, as if it was more than just paint on wood. Why would one portrait consume so much of his energy, even as he designed machines, studied anatomy, and explored the stars? Perhaps because to him, this painting was never just a portrait. It was a vessel, a repository of knowledge, a cipher disguised as beauty. When you stand before the Mona Lisa, what you see first is simplicity. A woman seated calmly, her hands folded, her smile barely there. But simplicity is a mask. Behind the scenes of those brushstrokes lies a labyrinth of choices, from the mathematical precision of proportions to the symbolic play of light and shadow. Leonardo knew that the surface would captivate, but it was the hidden structures that would endure, waiting for the curious to decode them. This mindset of embedding truth beneath layers was central to his journey. He seemed to believe that the real impact of his work would not be immediate, but would unfold gradually, across centuries, as minds grew ready to perceive it. The Mona Lisa, then, becomes not just art, but transformation, a portal through which each viewer embarks on their own search for meaning. It forces you to question appearances, to ask what lies beyond the obvious, to confront the idea that decisions made by one man in Renaissance Florence could still ripple through history and shape how we see the world today. Perhaps that is why the painting never feels complete. It reflects our own unfinished journey of discovery. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic, because the mysteries within the Mona Lisa are not confined to her enigmatic smile or her delicate posture. They extend into codes, symbols, and revelations that Leonardo may have deliberately hidden, daring us to look closer and question what we think we know. And before we continue, I'd love for you to add your perspective. Write in the comments, "The hidden truth is calling me," because expressing it out loud creates a connection, a reminder that curiosity itself is part of the journey Leonardo wanted us to embrace. For centuries, the woman behind the Mona Lisa has been introduced to us as Lisa Gherardini, the wife of a prosperous silk merchant named Francesco del Giocondo. On the surface, it sounds straightforward. A wealthy man commissions a portrait of his wife to celebrate family pride and status. Yet, with Leonardo, nothing is ever so simple. Even if Lisa truly sat for the painting, the result is far more than a record of her features. It's as though he used her image as a doorway, a symbol, a canvas on which to project ideas that reached far beyond her personal story. This duality, the everyday reality of a Florentine woman and the profound mystery she represents, turns the Mona Lisa into a paradox, where life and enigma merge seamlessly. Because of this connection, the painting has long been called La Gioconda, which translates to the joyful or the happy woman. The irony is striking. That faint smile, so famous for its ambiguity, has been celebrated as joyful, yet countless viewers sense that it carries something more complex, even unsettling. It is the kind of smile that feels both near and distant, welcoming and secretive. Leonardo knew how to play with perception, how to let emotion hover just out of reach, forcing us into an endless cycle of interpretation. The name itself becomes a layer of meaning. Is she truly the happy woman? Or is the joy a mask, concealing a deeper narrative? Decades later, the name Mona Lisa entered history through Giorgio Vasari, who in his writings identified the sitter as Lisa. In Italian, Mona was a respectful abbreviation of Madonna, meaning my lady. At first glance, this appears to settle the matter, but Leonardo's genius often lay in disguising hidden truth within what seemed ordinary. Could it be that even the name holds a subtle code? Words, like brushstrokes, can be chosen not just for meaning but for resonance, for the layers of interpretation they invite. To a casual eye, Mona Lisa is simply a title. To a more curious mindset, it may be the first clue in a trail leading to revelations Leonardo never intended to state openly. What fascinates us here is not only who she was, but how he framed her. Leonardo was not painting a wife or a name alone. He was crafting a puzzle, an impact that would echo for generations. The choices he made transformed an ordinary commission into something extraordinary, shifting it from personal keepsake to universal symbol. That transformation is what makes the Mona Lisa endure. Behind the scenes, there is always the sense that her smile, her name, and even her identity are keys to something larger, perhaps even decisions Leonardo made about what to reveal and what to hide. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic, because if the name and the smile already hold so many contradictions, then the journey into the painting's history and the mysteries surrounding its ownership reveal even more hidden layers that continue to shape its story. And before we go further, share with me what this means to you. Write in the comments. Her smile hides more than joy, because by putting it into words, you're not just reacting, you're stepping into the very mindset Leonardo wanted us to embrace, where every detail carries a secret waiting to be uncovered. After Leonardo's death, the Mona Lisa began its own journey, separate from the man who created it. The painting passed into the hands of King Francis I of France and eventually found its home in the Louvre, where it still resides today. Yet even resting in the halls of one of the world's greatest museums, her story refused to stay still. The canvas became not just a work of art, but a symbol of cultural identity, national pride, and above all, mystery. Centuries later, in 1911, her story took a dramatic turn when Vincenzo Peruggia, an Italian patriot and museum employee, stole the painting with the intention of bringing it back to his homeland. That decision sparked an international uproar. Newspapers across the globe filled their front pages with her absence, and for 2 years, the Mona Lisa was the most wanted face in the world. The impact of that theft transformed the painting forever, from masterpiece to legend, from celebrated portrait to universal icon. It's interesting to imagine how this event shaped the way we perceive her today. What other artwork has sparked such frenzy, such obsession, such media storms? The theft elevated the Mona Lisa beyond the realm of fine art into the collective mindset of humanity. She was no longer just Leonardo's creation. She became part of our shared story, the mysterious woman who vanished and returned, her smile untouched by time, her presence more powerful than ever. Behind the scenes, this episode revealed something essential. The painting's aura was no longer only in the brushstrokes but in the narrative that surrounded her, the hidden truth that art can carry not only beauty, but also myth, drama, and transformation. And then, of course, there is that smile. The same expression that baffled scholars and inspired endless speculation became even more haunting once she was returned. It is a smile that feels alive, as though it holds a secret none of us can fully grasp. Psychologists have studied it, artists have tried to replicate it, and viewers continue to be unsettled by it. Is it joy, melancholy, irony, or is it something deeper? A message Leonardo embedded, knowing that centuries later we would still struggle to decode it. That delicate curve of her lips has an impact far beyond aesthetics. It challenges perception itself, playing with light, shadow, and the human eye in a way that defies easy interpretation. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic, because that smile may not only be an artistic choice, but a clue pointing toward codes and revelations. Leonardo wove into the painting hidden truths waiting patiently for those daring enough to look closer. And tell me, how do you see it? Write in the comments. The smile feels alive. Because when you put those words down, you're acknowledging the strange power this portrait still holds, the way it continues to stir something in us centuries after Leonardo laid down his final brushstrokes. In 2010, technology allowed us to look at the Mona Lisa in a way that even her most devoted admirers never could. Using advanced imaging, researchers discovered hidden markings within her eyes, symbols invisible to the naked eye, waiting for centuries to be uncovered. It was as if Leonardo had left a message in the very place where we are naturally drawn to look first, a secret embedded in the gaze that has fascinated the world. Imagine the mindset behind such a decision. To place your code not in the margins or the background, but directly in the eyes, the so-called windows to the soul. That choice feels less like coincidence and more like a deliberate act of communication across time. What they found sparked an entirely new wave of speculation. In her right eye appeared the letters L and V, a clear echo of Leonardo's own initials. It is almost as if he signed the painting in the most hidden way possible, ensuring that only the future, equipped with the right tools and mindset, would notice. And yet, it was not the only discovery. In her left eye, faint traces resembling C and B emerged, their meaning still uncertain. Could they point to Katerina, his mother? Could they represent another name, another hidden truth carefully woven into the work? Or were they placed there simply to remind us that nothing in this painting is accidental, that every detail invites interpretation? These revelations remind us that art is not only about what we see, but also about what remains concealed behind the scenes. Leonardo seemed to anticipate that human curiosity would not stop at the surface. He knew that with time, decisions would be made, technologies would evolve, and someone would eventually uncover what he left behind. It was as though he painted not just for his era, but for ours, embedding knowledge in a way that demanded patience, daring, and discovery. That is the true impact of his genius, his ability to reach through centuries and still engage us in a dialogue he began 500 years ago. Now I want to go even deeper into this topic because if those letters and numbers are indeed codes, then the Mona Lisa is not only a portrait but also a cipher, a visual manuscript meant to preserve revelations about identity, legacy, and knowledge, too dangerous to speak aloud. And I'd love to hear how you interpret it. Write in the comments, the code is there. By doing so, you're not just responding to the story, you're stepping into the puzzle yourself, acknowledging that the hidden truth Leonardo left behind still calls to those willing to look closer. Some interpretations suggest that those faint letters hidden within her eyes point to Katerina, Leonardo's mother, and with that possibility comes an entirely different reading of the painting. If the Mona Lisa were in fact her portrait, it would no longer be a simple commission for a merchant's wife, but a deeply personal work, an attempt by Leonardo to immortalize the woman who shaped his earliest years. That would mean every brushstroke carried the weight of memory, every shadow infused with emotion, transforming the painting from public art into a private dialogue disguised for the world. Imagine the impact of such a decision. What appears to be universal could, behind the scenes, carry the essence of a son's devotion. Yet the mystery doesn't end there. Another theory, perhaps even more provocative, claims that the model was not a woman at all, but Leonardo's closest companion, Salai. For more than 2 decades, Salai worked by Leonardo's side, described by some as mischievous and unreliable, yet always present in the artist's life. Many believe he became the silent inspiration for some of Leonardo's most striking works, a muse hidden in plain sight, his features transformed into sacred figures. If Salai was indeed the model behind the Mona Lisa, the painting becomes a daring act of concealment, an intimate revelation coded within an image the public would never suspect. The possibility of Salai being not just assistant but secret lover adds yet another layer of intrigue. In an age where such relationships were forbidden by church law and punishable by accusation of sodomy, to openly declare such affection would have been impossible. Leonardo, always ahead of his time in thought and vision, may have chosen the only path available to him: concealment through art. If that is true, the Mona Lisa is not only a masterpiece, but also an encrypted confession, a silent declaration of love meant to survive the boundaries of fear and persecution. This interpretation changes everything we think we know about the painting. The smile becomes not just enigmatic, but protective, an expression guarding secrets too dangerous to name. The calm posture transforms into a mask-hiding passion, the serenity layered with the weight of forbidden truth. And whether the sitter was Caterina or Salai, what remains constant is Leonardo's determination to weave personal revelations into a universal symbol, crafting a work that was never meant to be fully transparent. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic, because even the name Mona Lisa itself may hold a hidden code, a transformation of words that could point us closer to the truth Leonardo intended to preserve. And before we explore that possibility, tell me what resonates with you. Write in the comments. Every smile hides a story, because when you acknowledge it, you're not just observing, you're recognizing how layers of meaning, love, and secrecy still shape the way we see this painting today. If we consider the possibility that even the title Mona Lisa is more than it seems, the mystery deepens even further. Some researchers have pointed out that by rearranging the letters, the phrase transforms into Mon Salai, which in French means my Salai. It is a subtle yet powerful revelation, one that, if intentional, would forever change how we view the painting. The title itself would no longer be just a label attached after the fact, but a coded declaration of affection, hidden in plain sight. This kind of linguistic transformation mirrors the way Leonardo approached his art. Multiple layers, each concealing a truth only accessible to those willing to look past the surface. But Leonardo's puzzle does not stop at names and faces. In the background of the painting, researchers uncovered faint details that add another dimension to the story. Beneath one of the bridge arches, the numbers 7 and 2 appear. To most, they might seem insignificant, but historians began to wonder what such a decision could mean. Numbers, like words, carry weight, and for Leonardo, who saw mathematics as the key to understanding the universe, they were never random. When connected to historical records, the numbers seem to point to a real event: the Great Flood of 1472 that destroyed a bridge in the Italian town of Bobbio. This was not only a natural disaster, but also a marker in time, a transformation of the landscape that Leonardo may have wanted to preserve forever in his art. If that connection is true, then the Mona Lisa is not just a portrait of a person, but also a record of history, a canvas where personal revelations and collective memory coexist. It is as if Leonardo wanted us to see the world behind the woman, the journey of a people, the hidden truth of events that shaped the land. He turned a backdrop into a map, embedding knowledge behind the scenes, so that the painting itself became a living archive. Every detail, from her expression to the landscape, feels like a deliberate decision, one piece of a larger code designed to test perception and invite discovery. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic, because if Leonardo used names, numbers, and even the natural world as part of his cipher, then the Mona Lisa becomes not just art, but a layered manuscript of revelations, waiting for those who dare to interpret it. And tell me, how does this strike you? Write in the comments. The code is alive. By putting it into words, you're affirming that art is not static. It carries within it the power of transformation, the echo of decisions made centuries ago that still impact the way we see and think today. The discovery that the background might represent the Tuscan countryside near Bobbio shifts our perception of the painting once again. What many once dismissed as an imagined landscape may, in fact, be a carefully chosen setting, a deliberate connection between the subject and a real place marked by history. If Leonardo truly inserted the memory of a flood that devastated the region, then the Mona Lisa is not just a portrait, it is a record, a silent chronicle of events hidden within a smile and a backdrop. This decision reveals his mindset. He understood that art could carry layers of meaning, capable of transmitting memory across centuries, transforming a personal commission into a timeless document of collective experience. Such choices invite us to rethink what Leonardo was really doing. Perhaps he wasn't simply trying to capture the likeness of a woman, but weaving multiple narratives into a single canvas. By embedding historical events into the background, he blurred the line between portrait and allegory, between private and universal. This blending of identities and landscapes feels like an intentional act of concealment and revelation, as though he wanted us to sense that truth is rarely singular. Behind the scenes of beauty, there is always complexity, and Leonardo seemed determined to remind us of that through every brushstroke. And then there's the matter of belief. Many assume Leonardo's fascination with science and invention meant he rejected faith altogether, but the evidence points in another direction. He was not an atheist, but rather a seeker, someone unwilling to accept the limits of official religion, yet deeply curious about the mysteries of existence. This mindset drove him to explore ideas outside the boundaries imposed by the Church. He searched for hidden truths in proportions, in nature, in geometry, and in stories that others overlooked or suppressed. It was not disbelief but hunger for deeper knowledge that defined him, a journey of discovery that he encoded in works like the Mona Lisa. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic, because if Leonardo deliberately embedded historical memory and spiritual revelations into this portrait, then perhaps the Mona Lisa is not simply art, but a coded testament of transformation, an attempt to preserve insights about humanity, divinity, and the universe itself for those prepared to look closely. And before we continue unraveling this, tell me what you feel when you consider this possibility. Write in the comments, "The hidden truth endures." Because by doing so, you recognize that what Leonardo painted was not meant to fade, but to resonate with those who, even centuries later, are willing to search for meaning beyond the surface. The idea that the Mona Lisa encodes the golden ratio is far from coincidence. Leonardo understood that mathematics was not just numbers on a page, but a language that explained beauty, harmony, and the very structure of the world. By aligning the proportions of the painting with this divine measure, he ensured that the viewer would feel an immediate and almost unconscious attraction to it. This wasn't just about aesthetics, it was about impact. The golden ratio has the power to draw the human eye, to resonate with something deep within us, to make us feel as if we are encountering perfection itself. For Leonardo, this proportion was more than a tool. It was a hidden truth, a way to connect the human spirit with the order of the universe. His fascination with this principle wasn't casual. In 1509, alongside the mathematician Luca Pacioli, he illustrated a book dedicated entirely to this concept, known as the divine proportion. That collaboration reflected his mindset, an artist who didn't separate art from science, beauty from structure, imagination from calculation. For Leonardo, these worlds merged seamlessly, and the decisions he made on canvas were guided by the same principles that shaped architecture, music, and even nature. By applying this ratio to the Mona Lisa, he wasn't just painting a face, he was embedding the order of creation itself into her features. The Vitruvian Man is perhaps the clearest demonstration of this belief. In that drawing, Leonardo sought to capture the perfect harmony of the human body, showing how it could fit within both circle and square, symbols of infinity and stability. It was a revelation that went beyond anatomy, suggesting that humanity itself is designed according to universal laws. When we place this side by side with the Mona Lisa, the connection becomes clearer. She is not just an individual portrait, but a reflection of that same cosmic harmony. Her posture, her hands, her gaze, All of it seems to echo the proportions that govern nature, transforming her into a symbol of balance between body, spirit, and world. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic, because if the golden ratio shaped not only Leonardo's sketches, but also the most mysterious portrait in history, then perhaps the Mona Lisa is more than a masterpiece. It is a key, a visual guide meant to reveal revelations about the hidden design of life itself. And before we step further into these possibilities, tell me how it resonates with you. Write in the comments. Harmony reveals truth, because in doing so you affirm that beauty is never accidental. It is the echo of a greater order, one that Leonardo spent his life trying to capture. When the golden ratio spiral is placed over the Mona Lisa, her composition falls into perfect harmony with its curves, almost as if the entire painting breathes in rhythm with a mathematical heartbeat. Her face, her hands, even the sweep of the background align in ways that feel both deliberate and natural, a balance so precise that it appears effortless. This alignment is not only a matter of visual design, it is a bridge between the visible and the invisible, between the external world and the deeper order Leonardo believed governed all creation. It is as if he wanted us to sense, even unconsciously, that beauty is not random but guided by laws that connect us to something greater. Psychologists have since confirmed what Leonardo seemed to intuitively understand. The human mind is naturally drawn to images that follow this proportion. We don't just see balance, we feel it. That is part of the reason why her smile lingers in memory, why her gaze feels alive, why this portrait continues to captivate across centuries. It is more than admiration, it is recognition, a subconscious pull toward a truth encoded in geometry, one that whispers of harmony and transformation. But Leonardo's fascination with concealment didn't stop with numbers and proportions. He also relied on another tool that reveals much about his mindset: mirror writing. To most, it looked like an eccentric habit, but in reality, it was a cipher, a way of shielding his thoughts from untrained eyes. The decision to write in reverse was not just practical, it was symbolic. A mirror is both reflection and distortion, a surface that hides and reveals at the same time. By encoding his words this way, Leonardo signaled that knowledge itself must be earned, approached with patience, and the willingness to look from a new angle. This raises a striking question. If he used mirror writing so frequently in his notebooks, could he also have applied this principle to his paintings? What if part of the Mona Lisa's mystery lies in the fact that she is not meant to be seen only as she appears, but also through reflection, through doubling, through transformation? Behind the scenes, Leonardo may have been guiding us toward a mindset where perception itself must be questioned, where truth emerges not from what we see at first glance, but from what reveals itself when we dare to look differently. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic, because if mirror writing was his chosen cipher, then the possibility that he embedded similar mirrored codes within his art opens the door to revelations far more astonishing than we might expect. And before we move forward, I'd love to know how this resonates with you. Write in the comments, "The mirror hides the truth," because by doing so, you're stepping into Leonardo's world, acknowledging that discovery often requires us to shift perspective and embrace the unseen. When researchers began to experiment with the idea of reflection in the Mona Lisa, something extraordinary emerged. By mirroring and aligning the position of her hands, hidden shapes seemed to appear, almost as if another layer of the painting had been waiting to reveal itself all along. Among these forms, a strange figure with disproportionately large black eyes came into view, an image so uncanny that it immediately provoked questions about Leonardo's intentions. Was it simply an accidental pattern born of symmetry, or was it a deliberate decision, a code meant to challenge us with the possibility of realities beyond our own? This discovery becomes even more intriguing when we realize it is not isolated. Similar mirrored images have been found in other works by Leonardo, including John the Baptist and the Madonna of the Rocks. Once again, hidden faces and unusual beings emerge when the compositions are folded back on themselves. It feels as though Leonardo was quietly embedding a parallel dimension into his art, a behind-the-scenes message, visible only to those willing to distort perspective and challenge appearances. Such revelations remind us that his works were not static. They were designed as living puzzles, layered with secrets that demand curiosity and courage to uncover. The resemblance of these hidden images to modern depictions of extraterrestrials pushes the mystery to an even stranger place. Large, almond-shaped eyes, elongated features, and otherworldly expressions. These are traits that echo descriptions familiar to us centuries later. Could Leonardo have encountered ideas or visions that inspired him to encode such figures into his art? Or was he simply experimenting with geometry and symmetry, inadvertently creating shapes that resonate with archetypes deeply rooted in the human imagination? Either way, the impact is undeniable. It transforms the Mona Lisa from a portrait into a gateway, inviting us to question not only history, but also the boundaries of reality itself. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic, because if these mirrored images truly were intentional, then Leonardo may have been pointing us toward revelations about existence, perception, and the possibility of worlds beyond what we see. And before we continue, share your perspective with me. Write in the comments, "The hidden face is real," because in doing so, you're acknowledging that art is not only what is painted on the surface, but also the journey it invites us to take into the hidden truth waiting just beneath. Leonardo's genius becomes even clearer when we consider the possibility that he painted not just for his contemporaries, but for us, for those who would come centuries later, armed with new tools, new perspectives, and a mindset prepared to question everything. The idea that the Mona Lisa contains messages intentionally designed to be discovered, far beyond his own lifetime, transforms the painting into something extraordinary. Not just art, but a time capsule of hidden truth. It suggests that Leonardo saw his work as part of a larger journey, one that extended across generations, a dialogue that would unfold slowly, piece by piece, as humanity advanced. This vision reveals an impact greater than any single invention or discovery, an enduring challenge to keep seeking, to keep looking beyond appearances. The Mona Lisa endures because she resists final interpretation. Each time we think we understand her, new revelations emerge, from letters in her eyes to proportions in her body, from mirrored shapes to coded landscapes. She reminds us that the surface is only the beginning. That transformation happens when we dare to question, when we accept that hidden layers exist not only in paintings, but also in life itself. Leonardo seemed to know that curiosity is the key that keeps us moving forward, that our decisions to dig deeper are what open doors to new understanding. This is why her smile continues to haunt us. It is the smile of someone holding back a secret, someone daring us to uncover what lies just beyond reach. Her presence in the Louvre today is more than an exhibition of genius. It is a constant invitation. The timeless enigma of her gaze is a mirror reflecting our own hunger for meaning, a reminder that what is hidden in plain sight often carries the greatest weight. And maybe that is the true revelation, that art can hold more than beauty. It can hold memory, prophecy, and knowledge, waiting patiently for the right eyes to see it. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic, because if Leonardo truly crafted the Mona Lisa as a vessel of coded wisdom, then each detail may be less about the past and more about guiding us toward the future, a future he somehow believed we were meant to unlock. And before we continue unfolding these mysteries, share your reflection with me. Write in the comments, "The enigma speaks to me," because in doing so you acknowledge that this painting is more than an image. It is part of your own journey of discovery, just as Leonardo intended. If you've stayed with me all the way to this point, I imagine the Mona Lisa's mysteries are speaking to you as much as they speak to me. That's exactly why this channel exists, to bring together curious minds who value stories that go beyond the surface, who see knowledge as a journey worth taking. So if you haven't yet, make sure to subscribe. You'll find content here that will keep feeding that curiosity and giving you new perspectives every time. And since you made it to the end, let me know in the comments with the phrase, "I'm with you until the end." It's always powerful to see who walks this whole path alongside me. Don't forget to leave a like as well. It's a simple way to keep this conversation alive and show that these mysteries resonate with you too. And if you're ready to keep going, there's a video right Here that complements everything we've just uncovered. Click and continue with me over there.